Hi parents, Dr. Tony Ebel checking in here, and with this video we are going to go deep and talk about dysautonomia. Now that's a funky term you probably never heard of before. In fact, a lot of medical doctors couldn't have much of a conversation with you about dysautonomia other than maybe the surface level understanding of what it is, and honestly a misunderstanding of what it is, because if you only see dysautonomia for the surface level, hey, the heart rate goes up a little bit, or breathing is affected, or our blood pressure is altered a little bit. Well, that's the very, very, very tip of the surface of what's really going on when a child or a teenager or even an adult is struggling with dysautonomia. And if you've never heard of this term at all in your life, you need this video perhaps more than anyone else, because what we run into all the time is this one thing, this one condition affecting their autonomic nervous system. So the nervous system is the brain, the spinal cord, the nerves. It's the boss system of the body. It controls and coordinates everything. And the reason we call it autonomic nervous system is 99.9% of our health is supposed to run on autopilot and do the job itself and do the job well. And dysautonomia is when it's all in disarray. It's disorganized. It's dysfunctional. And most people have never heard of it because most medical doctors and most practitioners never assess the nervous system. When they're looking for illness, when they're looking for sickness, whether it's cardiac, whether it's respiratory, whether it's digestive, whether it's immune health, whether it's anything, they look on either lab work, which is looking at your chemistry, not your neurology or your blood work, or they look at imaging, which may be looking at tissues and structures like MRI or X-ray or CT scans. But neither of those most common, so there's two main common modes of medical testing, blood work and lab analysis, and then imaging, MRI and whatnot. Neither of those really evaluate the function of the nervous system. So what we're going to cover with this video, it'll be a little bit more of a lengthy one, but man, if your child has struggled, and like most patients we've met, you've got a long list of specialists. You've got a neurologist who isn't really helping. You've got a GI doctor who's doing this. You've got an immunologist who's working on the allergies and the autoimmune. You've got musculoskeletal, orthopedic. You've got all these different challenges, but no one singular answer to why your child is struggling with a multitude of things, then dysautonomia, I guarantee you, is the thing you've been up late at night searching, scrolling, hoping, praying to find out more about. Because when you understand what's really going on with dysautonomia, so we're going to discuss what is it, number one. Number two, we're going to talk about what causes it, what triggers, or where does dysautonomia come from. Number three, we'll talk about how to find it. How do I know after we get done with this video and it sounds like your child maybe has these challenges? How would you know? How would you test it? How would you find out? And then number four thing we're going to cover with this video is the most important thing. So make sure you stay on all the way to the end. What to do about it. How to help a child, how to help a kiddo, how to help a teenager with dysautonomia. Every single teenager we see struggling with anxiety and depression and ADHD and gut issues and fatigue and brain fog, sleep disturbances, dysautonomia, and these things we're going to talk about that correlate. The vagus nerve and subluxation, they are at play. So buckle up, buttercup. We got a lot to learn. I'm going to keep it really, really, really farmer simple for you. We're going to get nerdy and neurology, but we've got my iPad, we've got my iPad over here, whiteboard on it kind of, and we're going to really, really make sense of this for you. All right. So let's do just that. Let's switch over to the iPad here. I will hide myself down in the corner. And the first thing we want to talk about is we want to talk about dysautonomia and what is it? What does it do? The first thing is a very simple definition of dysautonomia is all you need to know to get started. It is an imbalanced or out of balanced autonomic nervous system. There's two sides to the autonomic nervous system. There is the gas pedal fight or flight side, and that's the stress, tension, anxiety, shut down your gut, shut down your immune system side. And then there's the relaxation side, which is calm down, take a deep breath, digestion, rest, relaxation, social, emotional, regulation side of the nervous system. So what happens when dysautonomia sets in is all of those other major systems are going to start to experience symptoms. So think of it that way. The autonomic nervous system is the core, right? So it's at the base. It's tethered together with all these other, today we kept it to 5 major systems of the body and of our biology, our neurobiology, we're going to call it today, or neurophysiology. And then from there, once you have that major system and it's dysfunctional and it's dysautonomia and it's out of balance, well, then the other systems, so whether that be the gut, the immune, the mental emotional system, the motor system. We could have added in hormones on here. We could do a lot more with this video, but it would take us hours. Once those systems start to go into dysfunction, now you're going to get certain symptoms or conditions that come from that. That's why dysautonomia is the one singular answer to the things that so many parents have been looking for so long, because it is very, very rare today that we take in even a 3-year-old patient with sensory challenges or autism spectrum, or a 7-year-old with ADHD, or a 9-year-old with anxiety who doesn't also have gut issues, who doesn't also have respiratory history of ear infections and allergies and asthma, and doesn't have a multitude of other things. So let's look at them one-on-one for just a few minutes. When a patient or when a child is struggling with dysautonomia, the first thing that's going to happen with their gut is they're going to experience decreased motility. Now, that simply means things won't move along as well. So what that looks like in an infant is reflux and kind of just colicky, those sort of challenges. What it looks like later on, and again, in an infant too, but especially older kids, chronic stomach aches or nausea, and just having this upset, nervous stomach all the time. This is one of the play-ins or clinical connections to anxiety, which we'll get to in just a minute. And then constipation. That's a huge one. And so if you've studied health at all, and I know so many parents are going to watch a video like this, you're just bosses. You've watched, you've learned, you've gone on, you're on Instagram, you're on Facebook, you're on Google, and you know about the gut-brain connection, and you know about the gut and the immune system interaction. Well, if we don't have a healthy autonomic nervous system, we don't have a healthy digestive system. And if we don't have a healthy digestive system, we don't have a healthy immune system. So there is cross problems, if you will. When the gut shuts down and we have decreased motility, we're going to have increased problems with respiratory and immune system congestion. So we're going to call it that first. The first thing that happens with dysautonomia and how it affects the gut and the immune and the respiratory system is same thing. Congestion is really coming from decreased movement. And so when the nervous system is stuck in this, we'll get to this in a second, subluxated dysautonomic state, there is increased mucus and secretions, but decreased ability to move them along. Now that's not good. So that starts to look like ear infections. That starts to look like sinus infections. That starts to look like chronic strep infections and runs the risk of a child going into pandas or those sort of challenges. That starts to look like asthma and allergies and getting bronchitis or pneumonia. Every time a child gets sick, they can't kick that croup out. They can't kick that cold out. If you're watching this video while reading the article about dysautonomia on our website, click on all the different links here within the article to all the different conditions, and you can learn about the correlations between anything from croup and RSV and ear infections and allergies over to the nervous system and that neuroimmune, specifically the autonomic connection. All right. So that's what we start to look at. And if that occurs then over time, now, just like so it started with the nervous system being out of balance, well, eventually the immune system gets out of balance, and we end up with a high correlation, especially in older kids and adults, a high correlation of dysautonomia and autoimmune challenges. They essentially are the same thing. Well, now if we come over here and we look at mental and emotional health, because the autonomic nervous system also controls our mood and our focus and our amygdala and our hippocampus and our prefrontal cortex. I know I told you I was going to keep it simple, but those are some of the big nerdy words about the pieces and the parts of the brain that control our focus and memory. That would be the hippocampus. What about emotion? I guess I'm writing the same word there. What about emotional regulation? That's done by the amygdala. What about decision making? And emotional regulation is up there too with the prefrontal cortex. So now in the mental emotional world, we start to run into things like ADHD. We start to run into things like OCD or ODD with behavioral issues. We start to run in a high amount of anxiety And if this wound up, stressed out nervous system, which again is exactly what dysautonomia is affecting our brain and that part of our nervous system for a long enough time, eventually we're going to run out of gas and end up with depression. And that's really what it is. What we find all the time, I'll sneak this into the video, the number one thing going on with all of our patients, especially even little grade school kiddos and then teenagers and then adults, is they are wound up and worn out at the same time. Because once you've had all of this dysautonomia triggering the gut issues, the immune issues, you're sick all the time, you're stressed all the time, you're struggling with focus, you're struggling with emotional regulation and behavior, and you're getting in trouble all the time, eventually you're just flat out exhausted. Perhaps one of the most clear signs and symptoms that we can really start to know a patient is going through and is struggling with dysautonomia is just flat out exhaustion. Physical exhaustion, digestive exhaustion, heck, you could say immune system exhaustion, and then mental, emotional, cognitive exhaustion as well. And then the fifth and final system we'll talk about here today that is very much affected by dysautonomia is the motor system. And when that sympathetic fight or flight system is running too much, you're going to get spasm and tension. And so even pediatric patients will complain about neck pain, they'll complain about back pain, they'll complain about tension headaches or even migraines and those things, but you're also going to get a lot of weakness. So what we see a lot with our sensory kids and our spectrum kids and our special needs kids who are really, really the root of those challenges is the perfect storm, this dysautonomia conversation, because that's what this is. It's a perfect storm as it threads it all together, and it just keeps going until the autonomic nervous system is addressed. You can't fix this with chemistry. You can't fix this with medications. You can't fix this with those things. You got to actually address the nervous system in its core way. That's why you can't find it with the two medical testing, either lab results or imaging, and you can't take care of it with either of those approaches either, but you can address it during the motor system. So many of our kiddos who have been doing PT, OT, and speech for so long, and they have this motor tone, so this is really a conversation around tone and coordination. Those are the two things greatly affected within the muscular or motor system from dysautonomia. All right, so that's the first thing we said we were going to cover with this video is what's causing it, or what is dysautonomia? What the heck does it look like? How would I know if my child has it? Well, if you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 different things, and now you're seeing, you've been told to take your child to a specialist for gut issues and respiratory and immune issues and ADHD and a behavioral or cognitive, maybe a psychiatrist or a psychologist for the emotions and the behavior, and you're doing OT and you're doing PT and you're doing 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things to try and take care of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 daily struggles for your kiddo. Well, then just know this. There is one thing in the vast majority of kids that is going on that ties it all together. I'll sneak this in before we go back to the iPad and we start to go into what's causing dysautonomia and then how to find it and how to fix it and help it. The biggest thing to know is you might need to watch this video twice because it's going to be so simple that it almost seems too good to be true. It's going to be such a put it all together, why did no one tell me this before sort of answer that you're going to go, man, well, in today's world, we have this super advanced medical system and we have this technology, we have these lab works, we have all these sort of things. Like it just can't be that easy. It absolutely is that easy. God designed us to be healthy, and he put the control and coordination of all the other systems that make us healthy when they're functioning well and communicating well and working well. He put the control of that in the nervous system, specifically the central and autonomic nervous system. So if this one thing goes haywire, everything downstream goes haywire. And I know I'm not to section 4 of the video yet, but let me just get the good news out of the way here. That also means when you find and take care of and improve upon the one thing, the nervous system, guess what gets better? Everything. The digestion gets better. The immune system gets better. Your sleep gets better. I forgot to mention sleep as being a huge trouble in there. Everything gets better. Your focus gets better. Your energy gets better. Your muscles get better. That's the coolest thing about neurologically focused pediatric chiropractic. we can find a multitude of challenges tethered to and caused by coming from one thing, and we can do one thing and greatly improve the function of many, many, many things, which greatly, incredibly, more than anything else out there. We love so many other healing arts and options that are out there, but this one thing improves quality of life for children like none other. The top 3 responses to pediatric chiropractic care for tens of thousands of patients in our office over the years are: number 1, better sleep. Number 2, improved energy and emotional and mood regulation. And number 3, improved digestive and immune response. How the heck could one thing, these adjustments, that we'll get to at the end of that, improve all of those things, those 3 core things? I know we put 5 on the iPad, but if we synthesize it down to 3, so sleep, mood, energy, behavior, and then digestion and immune system, like that's health right there. And I know you think, chiropractic, back pain, neck pain, headache. Well, no, sleep, energy, mood, neurology. That's what we're talking about. Sorry, I went way cart before the horse there because I love to get parents information on why their child is struggling, but I love even more to get you the answers and the action steps as to how to get out of the storm and get out of the struggle. All right, so let's slide down here for a second and let's talk about what's causing dysautonomia. Well, the number one cause of dysautonomia is what we call subluxation. Subluxation is a neurological, really kind of neurospinal neurological term. The way we use it in chiropractic is completely different than medicine because, again, our approach, our training, our understanding, the effect we have on our patients is completely different. So we're going to simplify subluxation for you today. We're going to put it in 3 parts. Number 1, there is misalignment of the joints and the neurobiomechanics of the body, specifically what we call the neurospinal system, because it is most closely connected and protects the central and autonomic nervous system. Don't overcomplicate it. The neck and the spine are that stinking important. That's why, whether it's a football player or a youth gymnast or a brand new baby who can't hold their head or neck yet, we all know the most important thing not to injure is the neck. But what do we do with things like birth trauma and staring at our phones, text, neck all the time for kids is we injure the neck. Most children have significant subluxation of their neck and their upper cervical brainstem region from birth trauma, forceps, vacuum, C-section, induction. These are very physically traumatic and they create that misalignment. And then from misalignment, you end up with fixation and tension. And from that, so 1 begets 2, and 2 begets 3, and now you get neurological. Am I going to spell things wrong? I can't spell neurological wrong. That's the basis of my work. Neurological imbalance, aka dysautonomia. So that's what subluxation causes. You end up with too much sympathetic fight or flight response. So that is the gas pedal, as we call it. So a colicky baby, subluxated, fight or flight, stress stuck on. A child who's got sensory issues, has a meltdown in the store and in the restaurant and gets overwhelmed and can't wear certain clothes or certain things or can't get a haircut or can't brush their teeth, stuck on fight or flight. Too much subluxation, too much tension, too easily triggered into that fight or flight response, which is the same thing as saying too little parasympathetic or what's called vagus nerve function. The parasympathetic system is the one that relaxes us, calms us down, regulates our heart rate, regulates our breathing, regulates our digestion, regulates our immune system, and keeps inflammation down, allows us to go to sleep and get good sleep, and focuses our emotions and our socialization and our communication. So what happens when we are subluxated is we have way too much of this one and way too little of this one, and a child gets stuck there. The word to remember with subluxation means stress stuck on. When that stress is stuck on, it shifts the nervous system into fight or flight and into that dysautonomia state. And the last thing, or the third thing we'll teach you is this: we can find it. So when we see that subluxation is there, we know how to find it by measuring it with these scans. So I'm just going to briefly go through this because in the article and in this post, wherever we put it, we'll put another link to a longer video and a longer article about these insight scans. But what's so cool about these scans is we can literally find, and that's all I want you to know about this today. Number 1, we can find subluxation. Number 2, we can quantify subluxation. And number 3 is we can locate subluxation. So these 3 scans we're looking at right here are a thermal, an EMG, and Pardon me, I gotta have this guy on. Oh man. A thermal EMG and an HRV scan, which is really the gold measurement of dysautonomia and measuring and finding it. And when we have those scans, here's what we find out. Number one, is your child struggling with dysautonomia? Are those the answers you've been looking for the whole time to explain their gut issues, their immune issues, their motor issues, their emotional issues? And then number two, where is it? How bad is it? What are we dealing with? And then number three, hey, what's the plan? So the way you find this information and the way you get your child those insight scans is you get into the office of one of the docs that we've trained, or in our office if you're local to us, and you go through the PX Docs network to schedule that consultation and conversation with a pediatric chiropractor all about dysautonomia. We are the foremost experts in the function of the nervous system and things like dysautonomia and subluxation. We then have the technology and the examination to find it, measure it, quantify it, locate it, and then we sit down with you at what we call a reported findings visit, and we show you the findings and we show you the plan, and we say, hey, here's how the adjustments work to restore balance, to release tension, to get your child's vagus nerve and good, healthy, calming, regulating side of the nervous system back online. That is exactly what a PX doctor does. That is exactly what a neurologically focused pediatric chiropractor does, who has this understanding, this technology, and the clinical protocols that we use to get the job done. I hope this video helped you get answers that you haven't found in a multitude of other blogs or Facebook groups or doctor's offices. If you have any questions, comment below, send us a message, send us a DM. Please share this video with another family, multitude of families who needs this. We are always here to deliver hope, answers, and help. And understanding dysautonomia and subluxation is the single biggest missing link in all of healthcare. It makes such a huge change for millions of kids, and we can't wait to have it make that change for tens of millions and hundreds of millions of kids down the roads once their parents get this information that leads to the action to get the child out of that stress mode, out of that storm, and back to the healthy, kick butt life they so deserve.